Have you ever sat down and watched something and then after that thing was done, thought to yourself, yeah, my life a little bit worse now? I have. I kept hearing about Ned Fulmer's horrendous stand-up, and eventually curiosity got the better of me. Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. My name is D, and I like to talk about stuff that I read, stuff that I watch, stuff that I'm thinking about. And before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to my Plus, Ultra, Don't Fretters, my top tier supporters on Patreon, Peggy Luhu and JJ Valdez. Thank you both for your support. You are helping to ensure I'm able to keep creating content and put it out as frequently as my depression and burnout will allow. Patreon.com/DFretter if you want to get some bonus content, join my private Discord server, and help support the channel. If you sign up as a free member, you get access to voting polls about different video topics that I might cover on this channel, and access to my monthly newsletter checking in. Ko-fi.com/DFretter if you just want to support the channel one time and you don't want another monthly subscription to manage, or you could just like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. All right, so if you don't know who Ned Fulmer is, same. I don't know anything about the Try Guys. Like, I know Ned Fulmer is a former Try Guy, but I never watched them. I assume they're a group of guys who try things, but I don't know really anything. I do remember the Ned Fulmer affair scandal from like a few years ago. I don't think I was really making content yet. I heard about his attempt at a podcast with his ex-wife, but because I'd never watched the Try Guys, I didn't really think that that was something worth like looking into, or like my opinion would have a lot of weight. But when a friend of mine sent me a YouTube video of someone else reviewing a stand-up, I was like, all right, this is something I can get into. Now we're talking. You know, I didn't know you could go lower than rock bottom. Ned Fulmer found a way. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do something. Before I even watched this video, the AI thumbnail is ugly and unnecessary. Like, a lot of stand-up comedy YouTube video thumbnails are just like a screenshot of the show happening, and maybe they'll add some text on it. That's even easier than using ChatGPT, you know what I'm saying? But maybe the AI thumbnail is more cohesive with Ned Fulmer's brand identity, you know? Regurgitated slop stolen from more talented people. This video is like 20 minutes long, and I thought it was going to be 20 minutes of bad stand-up comedy. And I was like, man, if people want to watch that, they might as well go watch my stand-up. It took a lot of hyping myself up to even hit play on this video. You know, like when you have to talk yourself into jumping into a cold pool or make a phone call. I can do this. It's not going to be so bad. But it is so bad. 6 seconds into this video, I'm already cringing. Like,
by the end of the video, it'll be my name in lights. It's a life of a stand-up.
I'd never heard this dude talk before, and I immediately knew why he had cultivated the persona of wife guy. You know, this dude's got like vice principal trying to be cool energy, you know what I mean? I'm already going off script, but there's something about wife guys, like your stereotypical wife guy, where it's like they kind of make it seem like they love their wife or they respect their wife, but they are sort of like presenting her more like when a little kid has a cool toy. They're showing off their wives like they are trophies. I guess that's where trophy wife comes from. I don't know. I'm not a smart person. I swear I'm going back to the script, but it does remind me of when I was younger. I was probably like 15 or 16. I went to a youth conference because I was a church kid. You know, it's like this weekend long conference where, you know, like this pastor's going to do a bunch of sermons and there's going to be a live band playing church music and stuff like that. I assume a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the pastor who was like doing all the sermons at this specific weekend kept talking about his wife and how hot she is. And I was already weirded out. And then eventually he mentions that he was her youth pastor at one point. And I was like, yo, what the that's crazy. Because then I'm looking at my youth pastor and I'm thinking of him getting with one of my friends. I was like, that's creepy as fuck. What is up with these dudes? You know what I mean? You know, manosphere dudes, or like a Paul brother will show off some crazy car or a big house or something. And then also their partners, because their partners are also a possession to them that indicates status, I guess. Anyways, going back to the script. So I started watching this video and immediately I was like, oh, this, I wonder if this is like the format of a Try Guys video where he talks about what's going to happen in the video, and then he's going to show himself learning the thing and then doing the thing ultimately. And again, I'd never watched Try Guys stuff. But I talked to my friends Sayer and Jacob, who actually grew up watching the Try Guys. They're like, yeah, it's kind of the same format. Already we kind of know that this dude doesn't know how to stand on his own, doesn't know how to find like a content creative voice of his own. And I don't know if I want to draw this comparison like I think these are similar people. It reminds me of when Anthony left Smosh and his like independent stuff was kind of a rehash of Smosh stuff initially, and he had to kind of like figure some stuff out. And now he's back at Smosh, and I think he does more directing now. I don't know. Ned Fulmer is doing like one guy trying and not succeeding. So the first part of this video is a one-on-one workshop with a comedian named Subha Agarwal. I'm struggling with that pronunciation, and I apologize. I'm bad with all names. And she gives some really solid advice on doing stand-up comedy. Like, there's no substitution for working out jokes on a stage, because obviously you might just think that something's funny because you were there when the story happened, but people might not find it funny because the way you're telling it or something like that. Or what happens a lot is people will have like little laughs along the way to the punchline, and then you know how to like play with those a little bit more, and you can make it even funnier. She also gives the advice of like showing up to write. Like, she would set a timer or like set aside an hour to write even if she wasn't feeling inspired. And I feel like that's a good practice to just get into the habit of writing whether or not you feel inspired, because I feel like sometimes people kind of like put too much stock into inspiration like it's this magical thing, but inspiration can't transcend your own abilities. And I feel like sometimes creativity is just going to show up or meet you where you're at. So if you show up all the time, it's going to find you. Being able to just build those muscles and practice creativity even when you're not feeling like it, it kind of gives you more access to creativity. The way Ned is with this woman creeps me out. It makes me very uncomfortable. He's like kind of leering at her, and the way he smiles, where his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes even though his eyes are crinkled. I feel like, you know, this distance between y'all could be a little bigger. And I assume like Subha has been paid, like she's been hired to teach him and hired to be part of this production, this video. And obviously she's a grown woman, she can handle herself, but he's just like, I feel like you can see some creepy wheels turning in that little head of his, you know what I mean? Like, again, she can handle herself, and I feel like this is probably like, you know, like a job for her. He's just weirding me out. So Subha has Ned write some jokes, and like his intro joke is, it's fine.
Hey, I am Ned Fulmer. If you know who I am, I'm sorry. And if you don't know who I am, don't Google me.
Intro jokes are important. They introduce you to an audience. Usually it's a room full of people who do not know who you are. And so it's kind of like addressing the elephant in the room, and the elephant is you. So like, I make jokes about my height. I've made jokes about, you know, I used to wear all black on stage, and so I'd joke about being a black emo. I'm not actually emo. I would just leaning into what people thought. And Ned's intro joke is very fine. It's very middle of the road. Like, it's very corporate pop. It's not funny. Like, it didn't make me laugh, but I was still like, oh yeah, that's the joke you would make if you were him. You know what I mean? At one point in the video, Subha is asking Ned about like his experience with stand-up, or he's just telling her, I don't remember, but he talks about like a Try Guys video that he was cut out of, and he's like very clearly bitter about the whole thing. And not to be compassionate, but like, yeah, of course you would be, but it just comes off like he really doesn't fully understand or appreciate why they kicked him out, why they bought him out. And I think on some level he doesn't think what he did was bad, or at least not that bad. You know, like in a very typical guy way of like, yeah, I did a bad thing, but like it wasn't that bad. I think doing bad shit warps your brain a little bit, because you do something bad and your brain has to find a way to justify it so you can hold on to the narrative of you being a good person. And Subha talks about needing to be honest in stand-up, and I agree. And that definitely applies to comedy. But I do think that it applies to all forms of writing. Even if you're writing fiction, I think there needs to be a truth that you're telling through the fiction. Ned asks, like, how do you feel about emotional truths? I was like, yo, this fool wants to lie. Or maybe, like, he wants to tell his truth that doesn't align with the truth. And I think one of the reasons Ned can't be a good comedian is not just because he isn't funny, and it's not just because he has the energy of a sloth on ketamine. It's also because he can't be honest with himself. In the jokes that he's telling, like, he tries to be kind of coy or playful with the fact that he had an affair and stuff. In Eddie Turn, he is trying to downplay and twist things to be not that bad. Cheating is one thing, but also this was an abuse of power. In this video, he calls the cheating a workplace affair. In the statement, he called it a workplace relationship, but it's also like he was her boss. Like she can't fully consent to a relationship because like there's a power dynamic at play that I think he enjoys. He held this woman's career in his hands. So like, yeah, it could be a relationship or she could have been enthusiastic, but the second it goes bad, like, can she say no without losing her job and losing like her income, her livelihood? Because there have been like celebrities or public figures or whatever the fuck he was that have cheated before, and the public is kind of like, that was bad. I think the way the Try Guys kind of like acknowledged the severity and the gravity of the situation kind of puts him into a bad light, like a light he deserves to be in. You know what I mean? He's a creep, he's a predator, but Ned himself will not acknowledge it or will not see it that way. And I don't know if anyone would in his position. One of Ned's jokes is about YouTube sponsorships, and the punchline is like boner pills and BetterHelp.
Boner pills and BetterHelp. And I don't even medically need BetterHelp.
And my immediate thought is like, bro, maybe you should be talking to somebody. Maybe not BetterHelp, but like somebody. But he's also doing this thing that I would advise against in any of the workshops that I've taught, and that's like assuming people know what you're talking about. If you've watched any stand-up comedy, you've probably seen someone start a joke by like naming what the joke is going to be about, and then go, have you heard of this, or have you seen this? Do you know this movie? Do you know this book? Do you know who this person is? And they'll explain it in a funny way. He doesn't really do that. We're all on YouTube right now. If you're watching this video, we know what sponsorships are. I've never had one, but we know what they are. A room full of people who maybe don't watch YouTube for entertainment might not get that. He's talking about like the world that he knows, assuming everyone else knows that world. And like, if you're not a part of that world, you might not get why that's funny. It's not funny, but like a better comedian might have made it funny. Ned mentions going to therapy, and I don't know if I believe that. And even if he is, I question whether or not that therapy would be effective, because if he's so unwilling to be honest with himself and face the ugly truth of the kind of person he's become, can he be honest enough with a therapist to start to work through the issues that he has? Or maybe he works with the kind of therapist that like just validates his feelings. You know how like the shittiest person you know goes to therapy but then just uses whatever the therapist says to validate their shitty behavior? I think the shots in this video are supposed to be like indicating that Ned's getting real and he's going through it, and he's going through a redemption arc. And I just don't buy it. You know, like, one, the cameras are on and he's the one in charge of making this video. Two, I feel like a lot of times he is just repeating what has been said about him or to him. None of it resonates. Like, it's not genuine.
Art's a reflection of life, and I can never erase the pain that I caused. I can only wake up each morning, try to be a better man, a better father, to take accountability privately and publicly, and rebuild my life with integrity one day at a time.
He feels hollow. There's no light in his eyes. And I don't know if these were genuine reactions, but there's some shots of Suba laughing at the jokes he's working on, and it feels like either Ned or whoever was operating the camera was like, can we get some of you laughing? And they just like cut them in. I don't know, maybe they're genuine. You know, I've laughed at people's jokes that are works in progress too. Second part of the video, Ned goes to an open mic. And this is by far and away my favorite part of the video. And it's not just because like I have also done open mics in the back room of a Mexican restaurant before. And honestly, they can be kind of fun. But Ned talks about needing to check a lot of privileges at the door.
Me check a lot of the privilege from past experiences, being an influencer and stuff.
And that's absolutely true, because like at an open mic situation, if you're not funny, you're not funny. It doesn't matter how many followers you have or whatever. I'm going off script again. I remember going to an open mic, and this influencer who I think was paid to talk about the show Heated Rivalry showed up, did 6 unfunny minutes about Heated Rivalry, and then just left. And this was at a mic where you were only supposed to do 3 minutes, and they kept trying to give her the light, and she was just ignoring everyone. After the fact, it was kind of funny that happened. But yeah, she wasn't funny, even though she had like 100,000 followers on Instagram or whatever. Ed does the set that he's written, and obviously it bombs.
I used to be famous at BuzzFeed for trying new things. Then I cheated on my wife.
Turns out that was the one thing I should not have tried that was new. I don't think that the self-deprecating humor played as well in a crowd of comics that were already pretty self-deprecating.
It would have worked if you were f***ing funny, Ned. That said, a room full of comedians is maybe not the best indicator whether or not a joke is actually going to work on a crowd full of like normal people. Like for me, sometimes a sad joke will work with other comedians because they're also incredibly sad, but it might be too sad for the 12-person bachelorette party catching the late Friday show, you know what I mean? And sometimes the other comedians at a mic are not listening because they're thinking about their set, or they're like, you know, analyzing your joke a little bit more, so they're not really laughing, they're just kind of like observing. And I do think it's a little like how sometimes other writers or writers who write the same genre as you are not the best like feedback partners. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. But if you're in a room of literally anybody and you're telling jokes and no one laughs, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter who they are. This is so funny. The comedians who went after Ned just tear into him. And it is so funny. I've seen this happen before at other mics, but just to see it to happen to this guy was really amusing.
Whoa. A lot of sad dudes get into stand-up after they get a divorce.
It's a good PSA for being faithful to your wife, though, this whole experience.
I've got nothing else to say about the room. I ain't got shit. You motherfuckers can't make me Google what the Try Guys are.
Almost respect the fact that he chose to keep that in the video. I don't respect it because I don't respect him, but almost. The last part of the video, Ned performs at the show he was talking about at the beginning, and it is unpleasant. Having done shows like this and having bombed this hard myself. So I don't have any kids, which is for the best, but a lot of people keep trying to convince us to have kids because misery loves company. But they got to work on their pitch, you know what I mean? Because all they got right now is, aw, well, they be so cute. I'm like, yeah, no shit, that's what babies do. They be cute and cry and poop. That's it. Like, there's a small part of me that does feel a little bad for Ned. And there's a bigger part of me that's like, this is a hell of your own making. You chose to do all this, and you chose to put it on the internet. And there's a secret third part of me that finds this all very funny. Ned's best jokes are incredibly formulaic and predictable. They are your typical 1-5-6-4 chord progression pop songs, and a lot of those songs are actually really catchy and fun to listen to. Ned's jokes are not. Again, I'm going off script again, but there's just something so like lifeless, awkward about Ned's performance. A different comedian could have sold these jokes better. Ned's worst jokes are him being coy about cheating on his wife, destroying his family, and not willing to portray himself as the villain of the story. You know, like he's being playful about having an affair. And even if these people don't know who he is and they don't know the context of why it's worse than just that, he's still kind of like bragging about it. Like, oh, isn't it silly and goofy that I did this terrible thing?
BuzzFeed, you know, I basically wrote the listicle 10 reasons why having a workplace affair will shatter your marriage and career. Like, subscribe.
And that's just not likable. And I know some people would say like, this subject matter isn't funny at all. I get that. I do think that a better comedian or a better writer could probably sell jokes of that material. Like, I think that there's a lot of comedians out there that kind of will say like, you can make a joke about anything because they just want to say hateful shit. I'm kind of like, there's some things I don't think people should joke about, but I do think there's probably exceptions to any of those rules, and a very skilled writer and comedian can probably find the funny or find a way to make it funny. Like Taylor Tomlinson did a bunch of material on her mom passing away. And this is probably a more apt comparison, but I think John Mulaney's special Baby J, where he talks about not the divorce or the cheating, but like substance abuse. That's like the whole show. I think that he's more trying to outline, these are mistakes that I made, and this is kind of like how bad of a person I was or am. And I do think he's certainly still trying to hold on to this persona of like, oh, I'm likable and quirky and whoopsie, but I do think that he's a little bit more willing to admit his faults than Ned is. Again, he's left out the cheating. He's left out the way he treated his ex-wife. But we're not talking about John Mulaney. I will talk about John Mulaney if y'all want that. Let me know in the comments if you would want like a breakdown or a review of John Mulaney. I would do that for sure. Ned is kind of like a knockoff John Mulaney. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Ned thinks that he can have that same kind of comeback and get his own talk show and all this shit. I don't think he was ever that famous, bro, but whatever. I don't think you could be an animated Spider Pig. But Ned's like a knockoff Timu John Mulaney. And when you're a knockoff of somebody that's not that great, like, ugh, you know? Ned keeps bringing up pickleball.
It can be hard to make male friends in LA, especially if you don't do things like play pickleball or have a stable relationship.
And it's really weird. Like, I don't know what his personal vendetta is, but it feels like the whole sport itself bullied him in middle school, and he can't let that shit go. Sponsorship jokes don't land because he's not funny. And also, again, like, people just don't, like, he's not relatable. No matter what kind of writer you are, whether you're a poet, comedian, fantasy, part of your job is to bring people into your world. Like, when I'm teaching poetry workshops, I always say, like, poets, your job is to lead the reader or the listener down the path that you've already forged. You got to draw people in. When you're writing fantasy, you're building a world for people to like get lost in, but you got to show them the way. He's not doing that. And so when he makes a callback, so when he uses the sponsorship thing as a callback, it doesn't work because it wasn't funny the first time. Why would it be funny the second time? I was recording this video. I made a mistake and I said that he makes a boner pill callback. And he tries to do that, I think, in the first part. But in the final show, he actually tries to do a pickleball callback. And my point still stands that, like, because it doesn't really hit the first time, calling back to a joke that doesn't hit isn't funny. And it's just something I've seen a lot of newer comics do where they, like, want to wrap everything up in a nice little bow. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just like, because the joke doesn't hit, it's not funny the second time. So yeah, if you've like always wanted to try stand-up, I don't imagine anybody who's always wanted to try stand-up is watching this channel. But if you did and you're writing your tight five, I would highly recommend making sure that whatever you're calling back to is actually going to hit. Probably like talk to a friend and get their opinion or whatever. Because obviously you don't know if something's going to hit until you have some stand-up experience. His comedic rhythm is really weird because when he's doing those formulaic jokes, he is so on beat. It's like is on the metronome, but there's no, he's not in the pocket, you know? Like a good bassist is on beat, but you know, there's a little movement to a little rhythm, you know? Imagine, if you will, you're at the club and you see a dude and this nigga can't dance except when it comes time to do the robot. Then he's like scary good, you know? Like that's kind of how that feels to me. It's very awkward. He makes like a K-pop Demon Hunters joke.
Dating as a single parent is tough. You know, it's less tequila soda and more my little soda pop.
And that's too late. K-pop Demon Hunters is in that void where you can make a Jumanji reference, or like I had a friend who's working on a Matilda joke. Like those movies are more iconic and more like, remember those? I don't know if he'd been like, hey, remember that movie? That might have been funny. I don't know. I understand that even good parents are probably sick of K-pop Demon Hunters by now. But I don't know, man. There's just something kind of sad about like this dude complaining about the fact that his kids want to spend time with him still. Because like when they grow up and they realize what a fucking creep and a loser he is, they're not going to want to. They're going to hate him just like everybody else on the internet. But I don't really think anything he could do could save it because the way he presents his jokes is not funny. He just feels like another one of those white dudes. I know like it's not just white dudes, but you see a lot of them in comedy, or I see a lot of them in comedy. A lot of these dudes, they get up on the mic not because they want to make people laugh, not because they have like something they want to express or story they want to tell, but because they're attracted to the power of the microphone, you know? It's like they want to vent out their frustrations to a captive audience, and these audiences look like they're being held captive. Like look at this screenshot from the open mic night. Like these people are just waiting for it to end. When someone's doing bad at a stand-up open mic, it is the longest 5 minutes you will ever experience. Now, I know people won't like this take, but I gotta be honest with you. I don't think Ned Fulmer is the worst comedian I've ever heard. I saw worse 2 days ago. But like I said before, I just don't think that Ned able to be a good comedian because he isn't willing to be honest with himself, and I don't think he's willing to make himself the butt of the joke entirely. He says he's self-deprecating, but to me, he's like not really owning the mistakes that he's made. He's not really owning that he fucked up his own life, because I think if he was really willing to own it, or if someone else did these terrible things but was then able to own it, they might be able to make some of this funny. Yeah, Ned can't let go of this image, this self-image of being like a good guy, and the fact that he's not really able to be honest with himself, I think is keeping him from getting good at comedy. Like, he could still learn comedic timing, he could still learn rhythm, and maybe get a little bit more energy in his persona, and then so he could end up just being another white guy that's just a cut below mediocre. But I do think it'd be best for the comedy industry if he didn't pursue this any further. It's really funny when someone goes on a comeback tour and people are like, please don't come back. I've heard some people say that he's going to stay canceled because he's not charismatic or funny enough to come back, and I don't think that that's all of it. I think that plays a part in it, but I think a bigger part is that he's a creep. He's a loser. He preyed on one of his employees. Some people say that he needs to cut his losses and just get a 9-to-5, and I really wonder if he can. Does being a try guy look good on a resume? Does the reason why he had to be bought out look good on a resume? Because I don't know if these desperate attempts at staying an internet star are fueled by ego, or if he truly doesn't have another way to make money. The job market's bad enough, but then you have like his reputation. Like, I don't know if any company is going to be like, welcome our new head of the marketing department. This is our new HR guy. In my last video, I was talking about a different comedian, an actual comedian who was sexually harassing and humiliating a woman because she didn't laugh hard enough, or she didn't laugh at some of his jokes enough, or she didn't laugh at some of his jokes. And I had said, like, don't go hate on this guy, and the way I worded it wasn't good. I missed some things, and, it's not my best work for sure. I never want to be somebody who makes waves on the internet. Like, I don't want to like create waves of internet hate, no matter how small those waves are. And so when the people I'm talking about are not necessarily public figures, or they're people who like might have platforms smaller or similar size to mine, I just don't want to participate in creating hate. But I overcorrected and kind of downplayed the seriousness of what that guy did. The reason that I don't really care about like Ned Fulmer is he was part of like this really big, YouTube channel, media conglomerate type thing. And as an individual, he has more subscribers than I will ever. So for me, it's like, that's a drop in the bucket. That doesn't really matter. But, please don't go after Suba, like the comedian who taught him. Like, I feel like she's just doing a job, and sure, you can critique her like aligning herself with a controversial figure like Ned Fulmer. A couple videos ago, I was talking about the author of Shy Girl, and I took issue with a big YouTuber not really being like, hey, like, don't go hate on this woman, and she got a bunch of death threats. People in the comment section of my video were like, nah, like, that was fine, and Frankie didn't need to do nothing, and I just don't agree with that. I feel like they're like, that's just self-protection, that's just YouTubers covering their ass, and I don't know, I don't agree. I feel like we're responsible for just like saying like, hey, I don't think that's cool. Like, obviously can't control what people do, but I don't think it's cool, and I think you're weird for doing that. There's fair backlash, when someone does something bad and you're like, hey, like, maybe don't give this person their money because they're going to use it to, like, direct legislation to harming trans people. I just think that sometimes that shit can get out of hand, but I think I overcorrected in my last video. But again, please don't go after the comedian, go after Ned. But yeah, I don't know if it's kind of like how, what's that guy's name? Jason Nash was just like live streaming to try to get money because he doesn't know how to like do anything else, or maybe he's not able to do anything else because he was an influencer for so long. There's this gap in his resume. I don't know. I guess the downfall of Ned Fulmer would be a tragedy if anybody felt bad for him. But yeah, this was not good comedy. Ned himself is a joke without a punchline. Pretty much everything I got for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Patreon.com/DFreddy if you want to help support the channel, get some bonus content, and join my private Discord server. You can chat with me and a bunch of really lovely people. We're talking about books. We're talking about art. We're talking about things we're writing. It's a good time. Ko-fi.com/DFreddy if you just want to support the channel one time. Don't want another monthly subscription to manage, or you could just like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. My name is D. Don't fret. I'll see you next time. Peace out.